I'm looking at the thing. Oh, hey y'all.
Hey.
So I see the red light special up in the left hand corner. So that means that we are live. So say hey to the people, y'all, because we live. We
Hey.
live.
Hey, hey, hey,
Hey,
hey.
everybody.
You guys look so vibrant and
So
ready
that means
for
that
this
we are live. So say
conversation.
hey to the people, y'all, because
That was my phone because I'm watching the chat from my phone
to
in
the
case
people, y'all,
anybody
because
has any questions or any comments for you guys. So hey, so I'm really just humbled. Like I was in there like, asking God to, as I always do. This is a little secret that people don't know and some people do know, that anytime I have the opportunity to come before people, I always say a prayer to myself, and it's less of me and more of you, God. And so I was in there and I was like, this is a very unique and powerful opportunity to be able to hear faith-based leaders share their perspective on progress, not prisons. And also just a really important time to bring the conversation of faith to the forefront, because I also say that your your faith walk, or what you believe inside, is a reflection of how you organize and how you connect to other people in the work. And so it's always important to me to bring that to people's attention because it's so true. So we have some amazing individuals with us here. But before we get into the conversation, I think it's really important, especially with the climate of the world that we're experiencing on the heels of the Breonna Taylor um, injustice, because I can't think of anything else to say other than that. In the midst of all of the community violence that we're experiencing in our communities, um, all of the loss that we've experienced for loved ones and family members through COVID-19, that we just take a moment in time to just pause and hold a moment of silence in space um, for our communities right now who are really going through it. And so, if you guys could all join me in a pause and a moment of silence and reflection um, before we begin this conversation. Thank you. I think it's extremely important, as we are all a part of this realignment and reckoning that we are experiencing, that we begin to shift the culture of how we interact in these spaces, and the power in the pause, and really reflecting and grounding ourselves in purpose. I think we should just start doing. That's something that we should do um, often. To make sure that we're connected. So now let's get into this conversation. I was super excited when I was asked to do this. One, because I'm passionate about faith-based leadership. You hear me talk about that all the time. That in order for us to really move things forward, we have to learn how to center ourselves in our faith and um, see the value in spirit-led leadership. And so when I was asked to facilitate this conversation, I was like, okay, here we go. Some more divinity, some more of that God ordained stuff. And so this is so exciting. We have three guests. I'm the moderator. I'm super excited to share with you all who they are. So first off, we're going to have someone who I was like, well, if I introduce her first, they're going to think that I'm biased because, we are partners in this prayer work and this work that God has blessed us to do. So I'm gonna let her tell you a little bit about herself. And we have Pastor Pamela Houston here with us.
Thank you, Tay. Thank you for the brief introduction. I just want to thank Progress in our prisons for allowing us and affording us the opportunity to come and to be able to share in this conversation. Yes, I am Pastor Pam, and I am one of the facilitators and organizers of Stockton Peace. And the word peace stands for people expecting a change effectively within our community. So we offer prayer, we do healing circles, we march, and we go into communities to show forth love, hope, and just joy, bring joy back into the different communities. And so I'm just excited to be here and to be present in this day and time.
Thank you so much, Pastor Pam. Next up, we were able to spend a little bit of time in prep yesterday, and so just the energy and the spirit that I could feel, even coming through the screen, as we were prepping, I was excited to have Mr. Joel part of this conversation. So we'll have Joel share a little bit about himself.
Thanks, Tay. I'm also really grateful to be here. I am a volunteer on the criminal justice reform team at Bend the Arc, which is a Jewish advocacy organization. And so our criminal justice reform team works with partners like Californians for Safety and Justice and other organizations to try to change the way we're doing things in this country and this state and invest in our communities and not in prisons. So that comes from a deep place of our Jewish values. So I'm really excited to be part of this conversation with you today.
Awesome. Thank you. I'm so happy that you're here. Next up, last but certainly not least, y'all know this brother, one of our champions, one of our CSJ champions. I remember watching him speak. Look at you. When when the announcement was made that he was going to be the Time Done director, and just following his story and his family story, his beautiful wife and children, and just being able to hold space as staff with this man has truly been a blessing to me. And y'all know, everybody know Terence. So Terence, tell the people a little bit about yourself.
Hello, my name is Terence Stewart. I'm the statewide director of Californians for Safety and Justice Time Done Project, which we work with people living with past convictions. Over 8 million Californians who have some type of record or conviction on their record. So what we do is we're trying to relieve some of the 48,000 barriers that they face and make it so that they can reach their full potential in their life by not being held back by these barriers. And I think, what's significant about this show right here was, before I was the California statewide director, I worked for a faith-based organization, Pico, California, for about 5 years as a faith-based community organizer. So under that, I worked on many of propositions and campaigns. So I got some type of understanding of this.
So you triple fisted. You got all levels and layers of what is needed to get through this work. Well, thank you guys for sharing a little bit about yourselves. So now we'll just get right into the conversation. For me, as an organizer, especially as a survivor organizer, there's always lots of questions and lots of conversations going on. But one of my favorite questions to ask, and one of my favorite things to hear from organizers, is what brought you into this work? For me, there's many levels to it, but when I lost my brother, that's what kind of activated me and my family to be more involved, in the movement of survivors, and also just that dual experience of having folks who have been incarcerated and seeing how those things overlap, and contribute to repetitive cycles of harm and trauma in our communities. And so I would like to ask you, Pastor Pam, what is it? How did you become involved with CSJ and CSSJ?
So I've always been a person that has been very heavily working within community. And at the time when Survivors Speak came around, and I was invited by Tay to attend and come, just to check it out, just looking for something different to bring to the community, as far as being active and wanting, something fresh, And so I went to the Survivors Speak. And when I went, I was blown completely away. And I was blown completely away because I was able to witness people that have been traumatized, people that have lost loved ones, sit in circles and to truly be able to express every emotion that they were feeling, every emotion that the trauma brought into their family, into their life, without any judgment, condemnation, but just totally being embraced, being loved. Just watching them in their freedom of being able to express their feelings and their emotions, and I was just totally drawn in. And then I looked around and I began to wonder, where are the rest of the clergy? Where are the other leaders? Where are the pastors? Where are, the other individuals that should be here, embracing these individuals because they found the space, a free space, to be able to be free to express themselves. And so it just made me think of the story in the Bible about Mary and Martha when Jesus came on the scene after Lazarus had already been dead. And they came to him and they approached him and they said, if you had been here, then our brother would still be alive. And just in that, just the emotion that they expressed there, Jesus didn't judge them. He did not condemn them. He understood their emotion. And so I was just so it just brought me to that story, and I was like, this is my next level. This is where I need to be. This is where what I am supposed to be a part of. And it was just confirmation on top of confirmation, and just wanting to bring that back to our church and just into everybody that I came into contact with. After that, I think the next year I brought other leaders and pastors, with me, because I think that it's important that we are involved in our communities and that we are a part of everything positive that is happening, to be able to show forth more support for what each and every individual need to help their healing, to help them heal along the way.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you for sharing. So, Joel, same question for you. What brought you into this work, or how were you connected to CSJ?
Well, it's kind of related to what you were just saying, Pastor Pam, because I was invited into this work by a rabbi, Rabbi Mike Rothbaum, who's been a big activist with Bend the Arc and other, just really, really active on criminal justice reform in particular, a bunch of years ago. And he spoke about this issue on the high holidays, which, the Jewish high holidays we're kind of right in the middle of them now. And it's a time when we have to kind of make a spiritual accounting of ourselves and try to seek forgiveness for mistakes we've made, both as individuals and as a community. So it really just spoke so strongly with me because you become aware of this issue and how many people are impacted by the carceral system and by the police. And you realize that, as a society, we really need to look at ourselves and change what we're doing. And we really need to be thinking about forgiveness and helping people, and not about punishment and a kind of vengeance kind of approach to life. So so it was that invitation from a rabbi that really kind of rang true with Judaism and with where I'm coming from, and starting to hear all these stories. I just couldn't not get more and more involved with Bend the Arc, and then Californians for Safety and Justice and all that. So it's been really powerful. Oh, I think you're muted still, okay?
I was muted. My bad. I said nice. Thank you for sharing. Terrence, what brought you to this work?
Okay. So, time done. I advocate for people living with past convictions. So, the statistics go 1 in 3 Black men go to jail, and so it's a growing trend amongst females as well. So that's always been a constant issue, in my community and everything, and what happened is that as far as me and my family and even my grandfather, we all have been, incarcerated at one point in our time. So like in our life, so like, you know, I kind of like just been kind of vocal about my struggle, and through it, you know, people, you know, the opportunity presented itself over and over again, into the point where I became somewhat of an activist. So like, I think I didn't choose this; it chose me. We're on some faith-based thing. It was God's plan, you know. What else is to CSJ was like I said previously, that my first job was with a faith-based community organization, and the first campaign that I got involved in was Prop 47. So, you know, as a faith-based community organizer, I start organizing in different congregations and stuff around Prop 47, and you know, continue to push the message of, like, you know, people with past convictions, and the issue of redemption. You know what I mean? Especially in these congregations, and through that, I ended up doing Prop 47, 57, which is another California for Safety and Justice campaign. So like, you know, so I think Prop 47 was in 2014, and then Prop um 57 was 2000, and I want to say 18 or 16, and
16
you know,
and 8.
so, yeah, so like, you know, that's kind of how, like, you know, I started believing in the work of California for Safety and Justice, was through doing the work, you know, in a faith-based space. So like, you know, like what brings me here, you know what I mean, today, is just that. Like I said before, it was God's plan, you know, and that's the best way that I could describe what brought me to this work.
Beautiful. I agree. You know, a lot of us feel like it was literally divinity, or like the plan of God, that brought us onto this journey of healing work, you know. And sometimes when I don't, it's very rare that you hear people that don't say that that's how they got here, right? By the grace of God. So more specific to this conversation, we're having a dialogue about our current campaign that we have going on through Californians for Safety and Justice, and that is Progress, Not Prisons. So before I get into the question, I want to give a little campaign overview, and I'm going to read it. One, because I like to read, and then two, because so you can have, so the people who are watching can have clear context on what the campaign entails, and what our goal is. And then I have a few questions for y'all. So the campaign overview: Progress, Not Prisons. Progress, Not Prisons aims to educate Californians about how the $50 billion spent, you hear that? 50 billion with a B dollars spent on our criminal justice system each year robs our communities of the investments we need to solve our greatest challenges and be safe. California has spent 100 billion on prisons since 2010. That's only 10 years. And our state is at risk of spending even more. We cannot afford to let this extreme spending increase and eclipse investments into schools, jobs, housing, healthcare, and other solutions. The best way to ensure our state makes the right choice of progress over prisons is by starting locally, talking to our neighbors, colleagues, friends, and family about what is at stake. So I have a question for you. I said 50 billion is spent each year, and 100 billion were spent on prisons since 2010, and that's 10 years. That is a lot of money. And many of us that are connected to individuals who have touched the prison system clearly can see that it is a system that does not serve, that does not work. So my first question, and I'll start with you, Pastor Pam, is what role does faith play in this work, and what connections do you see between the Progress Not Prisons framework and your advocacy?
So I believe that the faith-based organizations, we play a large role in the work. We play a large role because we are leaders And when you become a leader, you have influence. And so as we become educated in what's going on and what's being offered and how the world is run and what's being conducted, then we can then go out and we can educate not just our but even within our communities. And that's why it's important that we are in contact and in tune with our communities so that we could give them the knowledge and information that is needed. $50 billion for prisons. That's insanity. And when we look at our communities, when we look at the school systems, when we look at all these different areas where there is absolutely a large gap and where there is lots of lack, where that funding could be allocated to be able to help improve our communities, be able to help improve our school systems. I feel that, it needs to be moved into that direction. But as faith-based leaders, our responsibility is not just to preach to the people. Our responsibility is to engage the people, to educate the people, to let them know exactly what's going on and how they can contribute their voice and their power, because we know that there is power in our voice, and they need to know and understand that there is power in their voice. And as we voice and become vocal, then things begin to move and things begin to change.
Let the church say amen. um, Same question for you, Joel, and I'll repeat it. What role does faith play in this work, and what connections do you see between Progress Not Prisons and your advocacy?
Yeah, well, I think faith really is also about our values. It really informs our values. I think, many of us believe that we are all created in God's image. That's something Judaism teaches. Christians, right there in the beginning of the Bible. That's how God created us. And that means that we all need to be treated with dignity. We need to treat each other like we see. That's where we see the divine, where we encounter the divine is in other people. And if you really are, I think, the faith-based community, if we're going to act and walk the walk of that worldview and the values that come out of that, then we have to be investing in providing for people's needs, providing for housing and healthcare, and making sure people have food, and then providing for people's opportunities so they can also do what God intended for them to do here on this planet and make our community the best place it can be. And so that, I think speaking from that place of values and walking the walk that we all try to talk in our churches and synagogues and mosques and temples, and I think that's a really powerful message for people to hear about where we should really be investing our resources.
Beautiful. I agree. I agree wholeheartedly. It once you become aligned with your purpose, then everything pretty much becomes more clear to you what it is that you should be doing. So I totally agree with that. And Terence, same question. What role does faith play in this work, and what connections do you see between Progress Not Prisons and your advocacy?
Okay, for me, I'm speaking on me. I found my faith in a hard place. I didn't find faith in no happy jumping up in church type thing. I found my faith in the struggle. I found my faith when I prayed to God when I didn't have no lights, water, and gas. I found faith in the Lord when I was going through some of the toughest struggles, and He was there. Not like before, but right also not leaving me. He was there right on time, and I learned that if God said 12 o'clock, don't get scared at 11:59. And like through the hardships that I have faced, like as far as like the issues of being of the criminal conviction, and all the times I have been told no for housing, for jobs, for legal licenses, for family reunification, them trying to adopt my own family members, like the only thing I could do was depend on my faith. And time after time, again and again, my faith it has came through for me, So like, it brings it back to the parable, and this is how it connects to this work when it comes down to faith, that it was a demonized child that nobody wanted to help because because they felt he had a demon in him. And, one of the prophets brought him to Jesus, and Jesus healed him. And he said, and the prophet asked him, he said, how did you do this? And he said, with the faith of a mustard seed, you can move a mountain. See, this is what it's about, having that mustard seed faith, So it comes down to it, like, why is a mustard seed even important? Because a mustard seed is a growing faith. It's the smallest of all seeds, but it grows into a massive tree. And that's what we got to have the faith of, is that we may be small right now, but we were going to grow into something massive. And, what is a mountain? A mountain is a pile of dirt that has been hardened over the years. So what is the mountains in our life? And for me, it's the conviction of a felony conviction that's been holding my family back for years. It's the prison industrial complex. It's all these systems at play that has been plaguing our system, plaguing our communities, making it hard on the boulevard. That's where that term comes from, hard on the boulevard. Their system has made it hard on the boulevard. And I'm saying, with our faith, we can move that mountain, and this is how this applies to my work. You know what I mean? It's having the ability, the audacity to say that I will grow into a massive tree and I will free my people and move this mountain out the way.
Well, when I was a little girl, was this lady in the church. She would be like, "Well, all right." That's what I wanted to say. It was a certain way that she did it, and if I could have inserted her voice after that, that would have been that would have been perfect. But you are absolutely right. Everything that you all said, I've said it over and over and over and over again. Your ability to move things forward in this work is directly attached to your belief system and how you activate it or don't. You know what I mean? And sometimes in those moments of how we gonna do this, or this is too much, it always, and especially in these recent times, it's like when the power went out a couple of weeks ago, and my kids had anxiety about it, and I was like, think about our ancestors when they were taken away and they had no idea where they were taking them to, and they survived and pressed through that and moved so many mountains miraculously. And it was because of their faith. Like in history, you hear about it was their faith that kept them. It was the hymns and the songs that they sang that helped them to get through. I'm getting chills just thinking about it. Just really passionate about the civil rights movement, but the philosophies and the inner workings of what the civil rights movement was, and just picturing them singing "We Shall Overcome" and knowing that those philosophies were based on their faith. They were spirit-led, faith-driven philosophies that have shaped the historical inner workings of movements that have shook systems. And so y'all are right in the vein where we need to be at right now. So I will move us on to our next question, and I will start again with you, Pastor Pam. And the question is, how would you imagine the people in our communities, in the communities that you serve, would use the resources if they were to redirect those resources, the $50 billion that the state spends every year, if they were to redirect them resources back into our communities, how would you imagine that people would use them?
I would, my imagination is wild, but I could totally see communities thriving. We are living in a totally different day and time. Don't get me to going into all the different millennials. So I'll just label them the young adults and the generations that are following and the generations that are to come. They are hungry for change. They are hungry to see something different. So if we are able to invest those funds back into the community, I could totally see them moving things forward when it comes to education, when it comes to encouraging and mentoring our younger men and younger women, and teaching them to invest, teaching them financial strategies, teaching them about higher education. Like I could totally see that because they are totally driven. They are totally hungry for it. And if we could get the faith-based leaders and other organizations that are already moving in that direction and thriving in that direction to back them and to support them, because they have the ideas, they have the zeal, they have the motivation, they have everything that it takes. It's just for whatever reason, when it our young adults, it's very trying all the time when it comes to getting them the proper funding when it comes to our youth. And there are future there are our future is now, and we need the funding to help cultivate our future for the now and for the time to come. So I am totally in support and big about supporting our youth and our young adults and cultivating them. I've had the opportunity of working with some within our community that are wise beyond their years, and at the same time of them executing their wisdom, they are open-minded to seek the wisdom of their elders. They're not in that place and in that position of feeling like they know it all and we have it in control and we know more than you. They're willing to come and sit at our feet to receive more knowledge and understanding of how they should proceed and move forward. So when I see our community, I see it totally thriving with the financial backing that is needed to be able to push it forward.
Beautiful. Beautiful. I have had the opportunity during COVID as we were organizing those peaceful protests, and then sticking with those young adults. And you're right, like I've learned so much from them. They've taught me so much. And then at the same time, they've leaned on me for wisdom. And so you see it, you see God shifting that energy back to what the word says we're supposed to be doing anyways, because somewhere we got away from that. And so you're absolutely right. So before I ask Joel the same question, I do want to let the folks know in the audience, if you have a question or a comment, you could post it in the live chat, and then we will direct it to the person or to the general group here. So I did want to let you guys know that you can ask questions, you can talk, you can say things. I see a couple of things popping up on the screen. Latanya Green says, I like that. A mustard seed is a growing seed. Yeah, Terrence broke that down. I don't know. I'm gonna start calling him Pastor Terrence. So so back to you, Joel. Same question. How would you imagine in your imagination people in our communities would use that money if they were to redirect it towards them, towards us?
Yeah, good question. There's so many needs and so many ways, education and housing and healthcare. We touched on some of them already. You know, one thing that what you were saying, Pastor Pam, makes me think about is I have a young friend who took over the South Berkeley Mutual Aid Society in the middle of COVID here, and she was kind of brought into that work by an elder who had been organizing in the community for decades, and she this elder passed away in the middle of COVID, and my young friend stepped into that role. She took that on, and you know, those mutual aid organizations, I think, are showing us something really important about how we can be resilient and face all the many challenges that are going to keep coming at us. So I think using some of that funding to really strengthen those relationships within the communities and the ability of the people to help each other and to give them resources to do that with, that they know what their, people know what their needs are. And if we can help people help each other, I think that's super powerful. I wanted to also just share a story in response to what you were saying, Terence, about the mountain. There's a kind of a crazy story from the Jewish tradition that when Moses was leading the children of Israel through the desert after God had freed them from slavery in Egypt, they faced some enemies who wanted to wipe them out. And one of these enemies was this guy. He was a giant whose name was Og. He was a king of a nation, and he was this huge guy. And so this battle, he faced the children of Israel, and he picked up a mountain over his head, and he was ready to throw it onto the children of Israel. And they're looking up at him and thinking their time has come, and there's no way they're going to be able to defeat this giant with this mountain that's about to bury them. And what does God send to save them? God sent a whole bunch of ants. So all these ants come and they eat away the mountain, and pretty soon this giant is just like, the whole mountain crumbles away in his hands and falls to the ground, and they're able to defeat him. So I share that story just because I want to say God didn't send some kind of lightning bolt or, some other giant. God wanted to show us that we may feel like ants, we may feel small, but there's a lot of us. And, if we each take one grain of sand out of that mountain, then pretty soon it's not going to be a mountain anymore.
Amen. 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 I guess the theme, the message that God wants us to hear so far is that we can move this mountain. We can move this mountain. We just have to have the faith. We have to believe that. Like the theme of that mountain keeps coming up. So Terence, same question. How would you imagine that if they gave us, me and you, boots on the ground, 50 billion? What would...
I mean, I pondered on this question. I ponder on this question a lot, all the time. Because like the work I do, I work with people living with past evictions, and we got enough prison. That's real. We have enough prison. What we need is progress, and when we saying that, is like we need jobs. Like even for the youth, she mentioned the youth, Pastor Pam. When I was growing up, it was a JTPA program, where a junior job program, where like the youth to actually work during the summer. You know what I mean? Like that could help to uplift in the community. You know what I mean? Like it's all these wonderful programs I deal with. It's Homeboy Industry. It's Starting Over Inc. It's Project Safe Return. It's Pillars of the Community. It's the 13 trauma recovery centers that you have. It's a array. You know what I mean? It's put more money into the youth community centers so they can do more programs with the youth. Because I talk to people everywhere. We did listening sessions and expungements, and we get events all these different places and everything. Man, this felony on people's records, and people get out with $200 gate money and got to figure out a way to make over $4,000 a month from a $200 gate money with a world full of collateral consequences of criminal conviction. You know what I mean? We don't need none of that. You know what I mean? A person with all these collateral consequences of criminal convictions need access to make sure that they could matriculate in life so that we can make our communities that much better. You know what I mean? So like, yes, we got enough prisons. What we need is some progress to help people get from $200 great money to the point where they're living comfortably in their own environment.
So I agree. I could remember, family members getting that $200 kick out, and it's like a lot of times it's like this is so much of nothing. That's a whole nother subject. you know where I'm going with that, Terence.
I do. It's a struggle.
Like, what I'm supposed to do with this? Well, I'm just gonna sew it back in.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, like, for a person like for me, housing been a major problem because of my felony, right? And like, I could barely even live anywhere. And then you give me $200 gate money, and only place that I could stay in is a hotel, and that's only for a few days. And it's like y'all done built all these billions of dollars, but there's no exit escape route for people who are trying to make it and matriculate in life. So like, if they spend all that money in there to keep somebody, if we really stand true to this rehabilitation that a person after they go into that system is about, then y'all should be spending that much money on rehabilitating the human being that y'all have incarcerated for all that time. And that's what it's about. Progress, not prisons. It's about uplifting this situation because it's over 400 years of struggle here. 400 years.
Right.
And so like, I'm just saying like, it's just about putting our money where our mouth is, like invest in the youth, invest in the formerly incarcerated, invest in the victims of crime, invest in all these different people. You know what I mean? And like crime, not to even say that all of us is the reason of crime, but it'll be a place where we will be that much safer because it's programs, it's $50 billion. I'll be, if you give me, I can show you what I could do with $100,000. I can make a positive impact in the community right now. Give me $100,000 to have a program, and I'll show you what I can do. And there's other programs that are out there that's doing just that. So I'm just saying, put the money in the community.
Right. I see. What's up, Nate? That's our folks, our family. He says, so inspired right now. What are action items that we can do right now to spread awareness about the 50 billion? Doing what we're doing right now. I say this often too. We get all caught up in our head about what can we do? What can we do? It starts with a conversation. It starts with educating the people. People didn't even know this. This conversation between us four right now has opened someone's eyes and ears to the reality of what the prison system is really about. And it's really about money. It's really a big business that people have literally sown and invested into. And so to hear to recap just from what you three all said. So youth, of what you would do with the money. So youth and young adult programs, financial literacy, housing and healthcare, strengthening funding and strengthening relationships within community, resources to help people help one another. It's like that village mindset. Jobs for youth, summer youth. I worked summer youth since I was 14 years old. Trauma recovery centers. I know I am extremely passionate about healing spaces and trauma informed care. Community centers and resources. So all of that is necessary, all of that is needed, and all of that is what is lacking in our communities. And so I really encourage y'all, to dig into our Progress Not Prisons website, which happens to be posted up on the screen, www.progressnotprisons.com, and really educate yourself on what it is that we're talking about. And then also that you sign the pledge to vote early, that you vote. I said this yesterday on social media that if we really want to see an end to police murder, police violence, and all of those things, we have to vote in leaders and individuals who are passionate about these type of things, about ending these type of things. If we really want to see more progress and less prisons, then we have to vote. We have to literally put our voice in and at the table via our votes. And just really activate your faith, like really get somewhere, and really think about what is it that God would have you do? What is it within your circle of influence and power that literally God has gifted you? Because He's gifted. We've heard from some truly inspiring and passionate faith-based leaders, but what is it that He's gifted you to do at this time to make sure that we are on the right side of history? And it makes me think about something that Kamala Harris said. She says, we want to be able to tell our children not only what we said, but what we did. And so what it is that we're going to do. And so, again, check out the Progress Not Prisons website, www.progressnotprisons.com. Take the pledge. You have set aside and be ready to vote. Vote early if you can. But before we close out, I just want to give you guys like 60 seconds to, as faith-based leaders and as Bro Terrence here, that boots on the ground organizer, a message to the people. People are hurting right now. People are really struggling right now. So as faith-based leaders, if you could give a message to our folks as we close out, I would really appreciate that, and I'm sure they would too. So we'll start with Joel.
All right. Well, thank you, Tay, and thank you so much for letting me be part of this conversation. It's been really moving and really inspiring. And I guess I would just say to folks that sometimes, like we were just saying, it feels like we're up against a mountain, and there's maybe a mountain looming over our heads, and we don't know how we're going to get through. We don't see the way forward, but and we feel so small and so powerless. But I think if we can have faith and hope, and we can just keep taking one grain out of that mountain at a time, maybe it's by voting, maybe it's by telling our friends about how important this issue is, then we can make things better.
Beautiful.
So thank you.
Thank you, Terrence.
What I could say is that sometimes you feel like in these tough times that like why am I going through this? But we're all being prepared for something. In my faith religion, God don't make mistakes, so He's preparing us for something bigger, and this might be our fight. So if you call for it, hop in.
Beautiful. Thank you, Pastor Pam.
I would encourage each and every one to not lose hope. Don't lose your faith in situations, no matter how hard or how difficult they may seem. As long as you have breath in your body, continue to believe God at His word. In the midst of the struggle, as you're coming through the struggle, continue to trust God and know that He is God and you are never alone, and that He is with you wherever you are in life. He's present with you, and believe that He's with you and He's surrounding you. So don't lose hope. As long as you are breathing in your body, hold on to God's unchanging hand. And like Joe said about the mountain, we all have a responsibility, and we all have a part and a purpose from God. Let's just continue to move forward according to our purpose in life, and know that there is purpose in
I
everything
love
that
it.
we
It
do.
goes right into what my closing statement is, and it's activate your faith. Sometimes it's like when I want someone to understand what that means, I'm like, take a step forward. That's gonna be symbolic to you activating your faith. So activate your faith, align with the spirit, and aspire to be a spirit-led leader, because it will guide you. You will literally be given specific orders when you align with the spirit. And once we all do that as one spirit, one body, we will be able to move that mountain. Like, I believe that. I've seen it done. It's in our history books. And lastly, just stay encouraged. And next Wednesday, our team will be back to talk about youth and juvenile justice reform. So make sure you check us out. And if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat in the comment section, and we will get back to you. But this has been an amazing opportunity and an amazing conversation, and we will see you all soon. Have a good rest of the day, you guys.
Thanks, everybody.